Now to Canberra, where the news is pretty dire when it comes to climate change. The first report from the Climate Change Commission was released today. Now, the key messages that the problem is undeniable and there's no time to waste fighting it. And there's no doubt at all that humans are causing global warming.
Well, maybe they are, but not like this. Producers and editors at Nine News should know by now that the stuff coming out of those big fat cooling towers is steam, not carbon dioxide. And so far, no one's proposed a water vapour tax. Welcome to Media Watch, I'm Jonathan Holmes. And tonight we're going to look at a major climate change breakthrough. Last Wednesday on Sydney radio station 2GB, breakfast host Alan Jones did his first interview this year with a climate scientist who doesn't reckon that the whole thing is nonsense. Mind you, it's stretching the term to call Alan's half-hour chat with Professor David Karoly of the University of Melbourne an interview. It was part interrogation, part harangue. Here's a sample.
You were intimately involved in the writing and reviewing of these United Nations intergovernmental reports on climate change.
As were many
Yeah, but no, I'm just talking about you now, but you were intimately involved.
That's correct.
Is there any empirical evidence proving human production of carbon dioxide, as distinct from nature's production, caused global warming? Is there in these reports? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Now, where would I find that? In Chapter 9. That's your chapter.
Sure, you would find that evidence in the peer-reviewed scientific studies and in the data.
No, but where in Chapter 9?
So,
where in Chapter 9? Where can I open Chapter 9? Because I looked at where can I open Chapter 9 is that evidence? Where is it?
I can't tell you the page number because I don't have the page in front
it's not
of me.
there. It's not there.
Well, no,
it's
Alan,
not there. You're the chapter review editor. It's not there. That's why you can't tell me the page number. The evidence is not there.
That's not true, Alan.
Of course, that's not the way Alan treats scientists whose conclusions he agrees with. Professor Richard Lindzen of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, for example, is a respected meteorologist who argues that if man-made global warming is happening at all, its likely effects are being grossly exaggerated. On May the 17th, Dr. Lindzen received the Jones soft soap treatment.
No, I mean, Australia could sink into the sea without affecting the CO2 balance significantly.
That's it. Australia could sink into the sea without affecting the CO2 balance significantly.
Awed repetition is a classic sign of Jones' approbation. Here's another one.
There is no way current models can predict anything for a region as localized as Australia. So where your politicians come off with these statements sort of borders on the unbelievable.
Good on you. Borders on the unbelievable.
Professor Karoly is just as distinguished a scientist as Professor Lindzen, a lead author of the IPCC reports, a scientific advisor to the Climate Change Commission. But Alan Jones doesn't agree with him, so he cops this.
Carbon dioxide, on average, is going from the atmosphere into the ocean and not the other way around.
But hang on, you've agreed with me. You've agreed with me that 97% of CO2 comes from nature. And if the oceans represent over 70% of the planet, and the bulk of the oceans are in the southern hemisphere, they may be causing, that's the natural phenomenon of CO2 production.
Alan, you're not listening to me, but that's fine.
Yeah, I am.
Welcome to your opinions.
I'm listening to everything.
Would you like me to explain?
I'm listening attentively.
Good, excellent.
You know I am. I'm here. I'm sweating as well.
Well, I'm sure you've
got me nervous.
But Alan wasn't nervous and he wasn't listening. Instead, he was subjecting the professor to a blizzard of figures.
So, 0.04% of the air is carbon dioxide. 3% of that 0.04% is human activity. And Australia produce 1.5% of the 3%. So we are producing 0.00018 of carbon dioxide.
No, Alan. Even if your reasoning was correct, and many would argue that it isn't, that would be the figure for the percentage of the entire atmosphere, not just of carbon dioxide, represented by man-made CO2 emissions from Australia. Yet you made the same mistake over and over again.
Of all the carbon dioxide, Australians are producing 0.00018%.
Yep.
Give me a break, Doc. I'm simply saying that Australians, you've agreed with me, are producing 0.0000018% of carbon dioxide.
Understandably bamboozled, it's true that Professor Karoly didn't pick Alan up on the error during the interview. But afterwards he sent an email to 2GB setting out why he reckons Alan's figures are completely wrong. Check it out on our website. You won't find it on 2GB's. But here's the bottom line.
0.45% of the total CO2 in the atmosphere is due to Australians.
Professor Karoly's estimate, almost 0.5%, is 25,000 times bigger than the figure with all those zeros that Alan kept repeating. But according to 2GB, it doesn't matter. Last time we visited this issue, I pointed out that Alan had made a similar mistake with his maths.
Nature produces nearly all of the carbon dioxide in the air. Human beings produce 0.001% of the carbon dioxide in the air.
That figure was nonsense too. Following our programme, a number of people complained to 2GB. We've seen the response to two of those complaints. The station didn't deny that Alan's figure was fantasy. Instead, it made this remarkable claim.
This particular statement made by the presenter is more a hyperbolic gesture to elucidate this opinion, rather than as a statement of scientific fact.
Ah, a hyperbolic gesture. Presumably that applies just as much to Alan's new figure.
0.00018%.
6 decimal places of hyperbolic gesture. Well, here are some figures which we are prepared to stand by. In his interview with Professor Linson, Alan spoke for 30% of the time, and Professor Linson spoke for 70%. In his interview with Professor Karoly, Alan Jones spoke for 60% of the time, and Professor Karoly for 40%. And amongst all Jones's blather and bulldust was this.
Are you being paid for being on the government's Climate Commission Science Advisory Panel?
No, my salary is not being paid by that.
Are you in receipt of any benefits or funds or anything at all from the company?
I am receiving a travel allowance to cover the costs of going to meetings of the Science Advisory Panel, and I am receiving a small retainer, which is substantially less than your daily salary.
So you're paid by the government, and then you give an opinion on the science of climate change. Have you ever heard about he who pays the piper calls the tune?
This is the man who, according to an inquiry by the Australian Broadcasting Authority, was found in the 1990s to have signed contracts worth millions of dollars, which he didn't disclose to his listeners, to spruik the virtues of Optus and Qantas and the State Bank of New South Wales and the Walsh Bay Development and the Walker Corporation. And Alan Jones is accusing one of Australia's most respected scientists of being corrupted by the payment of a small retainer. The hypocrisy and gall are breathtaking. The current regulator, ACMA, tells Media Watch that today it's begun an investigation into 2GB's coverage of the climate change debate. Talking of paying the piper, here's the Today Show's technology editor Charlie Brown talking to Carl Stefanovic about some new research into Australians' use of broadband internet services.
So what we found out of this research is that what Aussies should be doing is signing up to a plan, doing research obviously before you sign up, but also at periodic times throughout that plan use as well.
It could save you a heap of money, said Charlie. And how do we find out if we're paying too much? Asked Carl.
Sometimes this means just ringing your provider and saying, hey, I've been with you for a couple of years. Is there a better plan for me based on what I'm doing? So there's also broadband comparison tools that are out there. So you can just go to them. You can tell them what technology you're using, the kinds of things you're doing on the internet at the moment, who you know, how many people in the family, and they can help you as well. So
cool, good idea. But who commissioned this research, Charlie?
Well, iSelect commissioned a survey.
iSelect? What's iSelect? Oh, goody, here's Charlie Brown explaining that too, in an online video commercial.
I sat down with the team at iSelect to try and simplify all the mumbo-jumbo, and they came up with this great website. It includes speed and data indicators and a range of other tools to help you compare, select and save on your internet plan.
Aha, a broadband comparison tool. Exactly the sort of thing Charlie was recommending we use on the Today Show. According to iSelect, Charlie was paid for those online ads, and he's being paid to spruik its latest research too.
Mr. Brown was engaged to discuss the general findings of the research. We understand that he informed the relevant people at Channel 9 of his relationship with iSelect.
Well, no doubt he did. What he didn't do was inform Nine's viewers. We're not suggesting there's anything wrong with iSelect's research or with Charlie Brown's advice. And he mentioned the company only once in 3 Minutes on Today. But if you want to score time on national TV for research that's designed to increase your business, then paying the technology editor of the Today programme
to discuss the general findings of the research
isn't a bad way to do it. The fact is, like a lot of IT gurus, Charlie Brown sometimes wears a journalist's hat and sometimes a salesman's. As well as technology editor of the Today Show, for example, he's also the owner of
CBN Media,
which
specialises in the marketing and promotion of the latest consumer technology products.
But as Charlie told MediaWatch, he never wears both hats at once.
If I was asked by a company to spruik a product they had and be paid to do that in the media, I wouldn't do that on 9 News or Today.
So how did the iSelect research find its way onto the Today programme? Well, Charlie told us.
Because I thought it was interesting.
So did we, Charlie. So did we. And some of our viewers who were watching the French Open on Fox Sports 3 soon after 9 p.m. Eastern Time last Wednesday night found this pretty interesting too.
Well, we're going over now just to check out on Samantha Stosur. And she's won the first set 6-love and is leading 4-2 in the second set. And it's Halep to serve.
Sounds as though it was happening as they spoke, doesn't it? And look there, in the corner. It says live. But it wasn't. Stosur had won in 2 short sets almost an hour before this broadcast. Fox Sports told MediaWatch it wasn't their fault the match wasn't shown live.
Fox Sports is not the host broadcaster of the French Open and does not control the production or commentary on the event.
Well, maybe not. But surely Fox Sports can make sure that the broadcast doesn't say live when it isn't. That's it for this week. More details, as always, on our website. Until next Monday, good night.